preparing your kids for danger is something we do all the time at schools, and you do at home. It's just nothing new. We do fire drill training a couple times per year, even though our last fatal fire in a school was in 1958, right here in Chicago, Our Lady of Angels fire. But we still train these things regularly. And we do tornado drills, even though the last tornado hit the school was several years ago. I think it was Joplin, Missouri, 7 or 8 years ago. Relatively infrequent. And it just makes sense. We hear about these violent intruder incidents happening in our school districts almost daily, it seems. A lot of that's magnified by the press, obviously, but it's something that's a real threat, and we should train to it. So one of the protocols that's out there, there's multiple names. The Department of Homeland Security uses the acronym RUN, Hide, Fight. ALICE is just another version of that we chose for the branding of it, so you'll remember it and the kids will remember it. But it's basically the same thing, and it stands for alert is the first step, lockdown is the next step, inform, counter, and evacuate. And the important thing to remember about that, these are not sequential steps. You can choose from any of these steps anywhere along the way, and we'll train that way. It's not a linear progressive response. So that's just the basic what ALICE means, and we'll talk about each one of these items in a little bit here. So the alert function is really designed to help us make good decisions. It's all about information getting out there to your students and to the staff. We want as much information flowing by whatever means as possible, if that is a text message on a phone, if it's a PA announcement, if it's smoke signals, if it's mirrors, we don't care. However we need to get the message out that there's a bad guy and where they're at. So the alert phase is very important. We changed it from think about if you're in a classroom, you're a teacher, and you hear over the PA, lockdown, lockdown. You grab your kids, turn off the lights, lock the door. You sit there in lockdown and you don't know what's going on. Now if we change it to saying, okay, lockdown, lockdown, we got a gunman in the admin hallway. We know what the threat is, and we know where it's located. And so we have the latitude then to say, hey, maybe the smarter thing to do, since this bad guy is on the other side of the building, maybe the smarter thing to do is get out. Or maybe we should start barricading our door because this person's very close to us, barricade our door and look for an exit out the window. Maybe that's a smarter thing to do. So the alert step is all about situational awareness and passing down information. The next part of the acronym is lockdown, and I mentioned it to you. It's a great starting point. It's our backbone of our deterrence. We want you to know that we're going to, in every time that we can possibly do this and do it successfully, we will lock down. We lock the doors, turn the lights out, get the kids out of view, keep quiet. I can tell you, having walked down the halls to check on the teachers during lockdown incidents, it's scary how good they are at this. You'd swear there's not a kid in this school. It's amazing. Doors do provide a little time barrier, right? It should keep a bad guy out, but door locks have been defeated and windows have been broken in doors and people do get in. And District 79 lets you know that we have invested in some enhanced locking mechanisms on the door to increase security. We also have security glass, shatter-resistant glass in all of the windows in the classrooms, just as we do in the initial phase when you walk here into the building. A lot of the things that we've done to enhance security here by design don't reach your eye right away, and that's, again, to keep our district having a very elementary school inviting feel for education. In the lockdown, if we did have that example from the alert phase where we had a gunman in a hallway and he was just down the hall from us, we would want to barricade our door and make our door a harder target. Make our classroom and our kids a harder target, I should say. But once the lockdown is in effect, our teachers are instructed not to open the door for anyone unless they can actually verify it's a uniformed police officer until the incident is over. Some examples of some of the barricades that we've taught our teachers to do, and we do have some enhanced locking mechanisms, as I said, on the door that would help our elementary teachers with. We try to teach people in this environment to be flexible. The situation is dynamic, it's fluid. There's no right answer. You just have to embrace your survival instincts and do what's best to enhance your survivability. This is an example of how somebody who would be a security person, as we have security cameras here in the district, might be able to make announcements over a PA and talk about, hey, we got a bad guy in this hallway, he's dressed in this, take shelter or whatever the case might be. Counter is the last step. And when I talked about running, hiding, and fighting. Fighting is the last step, and I want to emphasize that this is, the absolute last place we want to go. We want to, if we can run away, we want to run away. If we can keep ourselves away, we want to keep ourselves away. But if somebody breaches our defenses and we have no other option, countering or fighting is an option. And I also want to emphasize that we're not trying to teach your kids to be mini ninjas. We don't want kindergartners attacking a bad guy. That's not what we're trying to do. But we want to have them embrace some very minor actions that can really significantly increase their survivability in the event that we did have the unthinkable happen here. We will train your children using very age-appropriate materials. One of the reasons we chose Alice is because of its familiarity with Alice in Wonderland. We can piggyback on some of those things to bring the message home to our kids. And the youngest kids will do training very similar to what you teach your kids at home. If a bad guy comes up, don't get in the car with him, don't accept his candy, scream if they try to grab you, kick, those kinds of things. And that's the level that we want to go with the younger kids. The older kids, there's some pretty capable kids, especially our 8th graders. We got 8th graders dunking basketballs here, and just pretty strong kids. They may be able to help us barricade doors, or look for opportunities to escape, or say, hey, maybe we can put something together to get out a second floor window here, and possibly even disrupt shooter dynamics if the person would get into a room. One thing that's we don't like to talk about this, but if you look at across the top, there's skill level. On the left side, you got active shooters. These are the people who are the perpetrators of these unspeakable events. On the right side, we have police, right? So the guys on the left are usually somebody who's not very well trained. They usually are very methodical in their thinking. They're got an axe to grind, and they're not very skilled shooters. Cops do it all the time. That's what they do for a living, right? If you look on the bottom axis, we got the hit rate. When you shoot and you hit what you're shooting at, the police have a very low hit rate, 20 to 30%, while the active shooter is in excess of 50%. It doesn't make intuitive sense right off the bat, but when you sit back and think about it, that how we've done things in the past is we've set our kids up against a wall for some knucklehead to walk in and just go after them, right? We're trying to change that. We want to put the dynamics in our court just like they are against a police department, and maybe make our kids moving targets, maybe have them scream, yell, disrupt an event to really significantly reduce a potential bad guy's success in our classrooms. You can survive contact with an armed intruder, as unthinkable as that is. As I mentioned, police miss 70 to 80% of their shots in a dynamic environment. The bad guy's usually not a good shooter. So what we want to do is put the bad guy in a situation where he has to be a really good shooter to have any success. And so we have kids move, distract, get as far away as possible, make noise. All those things increase the odds in their favor. Very small things we can do, but you can see how it changed the statistics with the cops from a 30% rate to a 50% rate for a bad guy. Your staff has been trained already in some other additional tactics with Alice. We've gone through live demos with them where we have an intruder come into the school and they would barricade their classrooms to make them a harder target. They've also gone through some techniques. This here is called the swarm technique, where you'd have 4 smaller teachers grabbing one limb each of a bad guy, and you'd be surprised how quickly they can slow him down. It's pretty impressive. Now, we've also taught your teachers what to expect if there is an armed response from the police department, and how to interact with police if they show up. Our last step, and this one is one we never embraced before, it just makes perfect sense, is to evacuate. The statistics show, over 50 years of looking at this stuff, 98% of the time, it's one person doing this. So if that guy's on that side of the building, and I say guy because 99% of the times it's a guy, he's on that side of the building and I'm over there, maybe if that informed step was gone through, maybe I would know my smarter thing to do is get out. Or maybe if I was outside, rather than bringing my kids in the building, maybe it's to run for the woods. We want the teachers to know that that's a viable option, that it'll be supported if they embrace that option, and our expectation is no longer that you go back to your classroom, you pull the kids in, lock the door, and turn out the lights. Bad guy can't be in 2 places at once, and if it's safer to get out, by all means go. The question comes, we got 100 kindergartners now running for the woods, right? What do we do with them? How do we pick them up? And I've posed this question to Lake County Sheriff's Office, we had a couple ways of looking at it. We're going to have reunification sites for your children. We're going to teach them, okay, if there's an event and you have to get outside, this is where you go, just like we do with a tornado drill or a fire drill. The other thing is the police all tell me that we would much rather find your kid walking around safe a quarter mile from the building than we would to have them be hurt inside the building. And so it's just something to think about. But we want to empower our first responders to make the decision. They're the ones on site. They're there. We want them to embrace their natural instincts and feel that they're supported by the administration and by you as parents, that, hey, it's okay to do what's right for my kid rather than what somebody told me 20 years ago to do, just to lock down in a classroom. You know, the statistics are overwhelming. If you look at this bar chart, when the victims or potential victims do something small to resolve the situation, the casualty rate is much lower. The next bar is when the shooter resolves it. The next highest bar is when the cops resolve it. That never turns out good, right? So we're trying to go all the way to the far right, where we're part of the solution to the problem. You know, this is not just Fremont coming up with this. It's being embraced throughout the nation. It first started back in 2008 with the Department of Homeland Security coming out with some recommendations. They called it get out, hide out, take out. Basically the same thing we're talking about. The International Associations of Chiefs of Police came on board in 2009, saying there's not a one-size-fit-all plan. The teachers should be able to choose between evacuating and locking down. New York Police Department is on board with the same thing, saying, hey, let's give our educators a choice. The list goes on and on. In fact, in Ohio, they require ALICE training as part of teacher certification now. It's something that's relatively new. And finally, the U.S. Department of Education has now come on board as a recommendation that lockdown has to end as our only protocol, that we really want to have our teachers trained in some other alternatives and be supported in those choices.